My parents skipped my wedding, but after they saw my 135K Porsche on Instagram, Mom called. We need to talk family meeting tomorrow. I showed up with a surprise. I'm sitting in my car across from my parents' house, looking at the familiar windows with yellow curtains. The Porsche engine purrs quietly, my hands on the steering wheel, and I can't bring myself to turn it off. Part of me wants to turn around and drive away, forever. My phone vibrates again on the passenger seat. Mom, the seventh call of the day. I pick up the phone and hear her familiar trembling voice. Julie, are you coming? We really need your help. Tom is in trouble. It's serious. 3 years ago, I would have dropped everything and rushed here on the first bus. Now I'm just tired and angry. Tired of being the one who always gives and gets silence in return. I say briefly, I'm coming, and hang up. I turn off the engine. I get out of the car. I walk to the door, and every step is difficult, as if I'm not going to my own home, but to an interrogation. I look at the peeling paint on the porch, at the old pots of geraniums that my mother loved so much. Everything is the same. It's as if time has stopped here. But for me, 2.5 years have passed. 2.5 years without a single call, without a single message, until they saw my Porsche on Instagram. Dad opens the door. Roger looks older than I remember. Gray stubble, deeper wrinkles around his eyes. His shoulders seem to have slumped. He looks at me, and I see awkwardness in his eyes, maybe even shame. Julie, come in. I go in. The house smells the same, coffee, apple pie, and something stale that can't be aired out. Sitting at the table in the living room are my mother Vivian, my sister Alice, my younger brother Tom, and his wife Sheila. Sheila is pregnant. Her belly is huge. She must be due soon. She looks exhausted, her face pale, dark circles under her eyes. The atmosphere is so tense you could cut it with a knife. Mom is crying, a napkin pressed to her face. Alice sits with a stony expression, her arms crossed over her chest. She looks healthy. No cane, no signs of that terrible accident. Tom stares at the table, his hands clenched into fists. Sheila is holding his hand, her fingers white with tension. I sit down in the empty chair by the door, yet deliberately choosing the one closest to the exit, and ask directly, what happened? Dad sighs heavily, slumps down in his seat at the head of the table, and says, without looking at me, Tom invested our savings in cryptocurrency. It crashed. He lost everything. Plus, he took out another $30,000 in loans and invested that too. Now the banks are demanding repayment and he has nothing to pay them with. I slowly turn my head toward Tom. He sits as if frozen, but finally looks up, his eyes red, tired, full of despair. I thought it would work, he says quietly, his voice hoarse. At first, my cryptocurrency doubled in value in a month. I thought it was my chance. A chance to finally make some decent money, to provide for Sheila and the baby. I took my parents' money to invest more and pay them back threefold. Then I took out loans from 2 banks to increase my capital. And then, in one day, everything collapsed. The exchange rate plummeted, and I lost everything. Mom sobs louder, her body shaking. Julie, she says through her tears, we saw your car on Instagram. We know you have money. Please help us, at least partially. We could be evicted from our home if we don't pay our debts. The banks have already sent warnings. I remain silent. I look at them all in turn. Mom with mascara smeared under her eyes. Dad, who still can't look me in the face. Alice with her cold stare. Tom, who is trembling with tension. Sheila, who is crying quietly, trying not to attract attention. I feel something boiling inside me. Anger, resentment, disappointment, pain. But I keep myself under control. I clench my fingers on my knees under the table so my hands don't shake. How much do you need? I ask coldly. Dad finally looks at me. There's pleading in his eyes. $59,000, the full amount of the debt. But we understand that it's a lot, at least part of it. 20, 15, even 10 would help. I remain silent for a few more seconds. I think it over. I remember how 2.5 years ago I spent all my money on the wedding, how I lived on a shoestring for a year, transferring half my salary to them, how I broke up with Dan because he couldn't stand me anymore, and after that I couldn't let anyone else get close to me, how I cried at night from exhaustion and loneliness. Then I slowly nod. Okay, I'll help. Mom raises her head, her eyes flashing with hope. She wipes her face with a napkin, trying to smile through her tears. Julie, my daughter, thank you. I raise my hand to stop her, but not 20, 5,000. So you can pay the most urgent bills and get back on your feet. Tom has to pay the rest himself. Silence. A heavy, oppressive silence that fills the room like thick fog. Alice is the first to react. She rolls her eyes and leans back in her chair. Tom stands up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. 5,000? His voice trembles with indignation. Are you kidding me? You drive a $135,000 Porsche and you're offering us 5? 5 measly thousand? I look at him calmly, without standing up or raising my voice. Yes, 5,000. Tom laughs, an angry, bitter, almost hysterical laugh. Are you really that greedy? We're family, Julie, or have you already forgotten what that means? And then something inside me breaks. It's as if a thin thread that I've been holding taut all this time snaps with a quiet crack. I stand up too, slowly, and look him straight in the eye. Family? My voice is quiet but sharp. 3.5 years ago, I gave away all the money Dan and I had saved for our wedding, every last cent, to help Alice. Then I paid you half my salary every month for a year. I lived on pasta and cheap canned food, didn't buy anything extra. Dan left because he couldn't live like that anymore. I didn't even have money for coffee at a cafe. Mom opens her mouth to say something, but I continue. And when I asked for a month, no, a damn week off, when I sent only $300 because I wanted to go to the sea for at least the weekend, Mom called me selfish. And Dad called and said, if you think we're using you, it's better if we don't talk at all. 2.5 years, not a single call, not a single message. Until you saw the car, Mom wipes her eyes, her voice trembling. Julie, you misunderstood. We didn't mean to. I understood everything correctly, I interrupt. You cut off contact with me because I couldn't give everything I physically could anymore. Because I dared to ask for a break. And now that you've seen the Porsche, you've decided that I have to pay for Tom's mistakes, for the fact that he lost someone else's money on something he didn't even understand. Alice intervenes coldly, her voice sharp. Julie, don't be so cruel. Tom made a mistake, but he's family. He's young. He didn't think it through. 5,000 is nothing to you, a drop in the ocean. I turn back to her, look into her cold eyes. Nothing. I earned that money. All by myself. I worked 12 hours a day for 2 years, traveled to other cities for negotiations, fought for every contract, learned to be tough because otherwise I would have been eaten alive. I gave up weekends, vacations, everything. And now I have to give it all away so that Tom, who lost other people's money in crypto, can sleep peacefully. Tom yells, his face red. It wasn't gambling. It was an investment. Not an investment in my family's future. An investment, I almost laugh. You invested your parents' money without them really understanding the risks. You took out loans for $30,000 with a pregnant wife and an unstable job. You hoped for a miracle. And now you want me to save you? That I become that fool who will give everything away again so that you can live from paycheck to paycheck, so that your fat asses can get even fatter and softer? Sheila cries quietly, pressing her hands to her stomach. I feel sorry for her. It's not her fault that Tom is an idiot. But Tom... He looks at me with such hatred that I can feel the cold on my skin. Okay, he says sharply, his voice trembling with anger. Either you give me a decent amount or don't bother with this token gesture of 5,000. You just want to look noble by giving crumbs. You want us to kneel before you for your pitiful money. I take my bag from the back of the chair. Fine, then nothing at all. I hope you understand what you're doing. I head for the door. Mom stands up abruptly, her chair almost falling over. Julie, wait, don't go, Julie! But I don't stop. I open the door and step out onto the porch. I hear my mother shouting through her tears. Go then, go, you're cold, you heartless bitch. I don't know how you became like this. You're not my daughter anymore, you're a monster. I turn around in the doorway and look at her. She is standing in the middle of the living room, trembling, her face wet with tears. I became this way, Mom, when I gave absolutely everything and heard that it wasn't enough, that it wasn't even worthy of gratitude, when you chose money over me. I walk out. I slam the door so hard that the glass rattles. I get into the car, my hands shaking so much that I can't start the engine right away. I take a deep breath. Another one. Finally, I turn the key. The engine roars, and I drive away without looking back at the house in the rearview mirror. The road home is blurry. I don't remember how I got there. Suddenly, I'm standing at the door of my apartment, unlocking it and walking into the empty silence. I sit down on the floor next to the sofa, my back against the cold wall, and cry. For the first time in 2 years, I cry so hard that I can't stop, that I can't breathe, that my chest hurts, because I thought they valued me at least a little. But they just saw the money and decided that gave them the right to demand. And the worst thing is, I almost agreed. I almost gave up again. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of the phone ringing. My head hurts. My eyes are swollen from yesterday's tears. I look at the screen. An unknown number. I pick up the phone. Julie? It's a woman's voice, familiar, but I can't recognize it right away. It's Aunt Marlene. I sit up in bed and rub my eyes. Aunt Marlene. Hello. Julie, how could you? Her voice immediately rises. Tom is your brother. He's about to have a baby. Sheila is in her last weeks of pregnancy. Do you want them to live on the street? Do you want your niece to be born in a homeless shelter? I remain silent for a few seconds, letting her finish. Marlene has always loved a lecture, even when she herself did nothing to help. Aunt Marlene, I say coldly, how much did you give Tom? Silence on the other end of the line. What? She finally asks. How much money did you give Tom? I repeat slowly, to help him with his debts. Well, I don't have that kind of money. 0, I state. You gave him $0. Interesting. Then why should I pay for his cryptocurrency losses? For the loans he took out without a plan to pay them back? Marlene is nervous. Julie, that's different. I really don't have it. I'm retired, living with Uncle Ralph on 1 salary, and you drive an expensive car, you have a good job. I saved up for 3 years for that Porsche, Aunt Marlene. 3 years. It's not a gift. It's the result of my work. I work 12 hours a day, traveled to meetings, gave up my weekends. If you think I should help my family, sell your house, and give the money to Team, or shut up and don't call me with your complaints. She stutters, then hangs up. I lean back on the pillows and stare at the ceiling. The phone rings again 5 minutes later. It's my cousin Kevin, then someone else. I don't answer. I open my messenger app. There are a bunch of messages. My cousin Rachel has written a long message. Julia, I'm ashamed of you. Family is sacred. Tom made a mistake, but he needs support, not condemnation. You've become cold and cruel. I type a reply. Rachel, how much did you give Tom? She replies quickly. I gave him $100. That's all I could afford. I'm a teacher. My salary isn't very high. I write. And I paid for Alice's treatment for 1.5 years. I gave half my salary every month. I canceled my wedding. I got divorced. Maybe that's enough? Or do I have to give everything I have for you to consider me good? Rachel doesn't reply for a long time. Then she writes briefly, I didn't know about that. I'm sorry. I close the messenger and block the phone. I go to the kitchen and make coffee. My hands are still shaking a little. The phone rings again. This time I answer it. It's Uncle Steve. He's always been the most reasonable one in the family. "Julie," he says softly, "I understand that this is hard for you. Vivian told me everything about how you helped Alice, about the money, about the breakup. I didn't know." "No one knew," I say wearily, "because no one asked. But Tom is young," Steve continues. "He made a mistake. He really did. He thought he was doing what was best for his family." I interrupt him. "Uncle Steve, he's 26 years old. He's a grown man with a pregnant wife. He took his parents' money without them really understanding the risks. He took out loans for $30,000 without having a plan to pay them back. He was hoping for a miracle. And when I offered to help out a little, $5,000 so they could pay their most urgent bills, he called me greedy. He said it was pathetic money, that I was putting on a show, that if he was so proud, he should earn it himself now." Steve sighs heavily. "You're right, but what can we do now? The banks won't wait. Tom needs to get 2 jobs and pay off his debts like normal people who've screwed up," I say firmly. "Sheila can work after she gives birth. Her parents can help with the baby. But I'm not going to bail out someone who spat in my face when I offered to help." Steve is silent for a long time, then says quietly, "You've become harsh, Julie." "No, Uncle Steve. Oh, I'm no longer a punching bag. They're 2 different things." He hangs up without saying goodbye. I finish my coffee and look out the window. The city is waking up. Cars are driving down the street. People are rushing to work. Life goes on regardless of what's happening in my family. I block the numbers of those relatives who called with complaints. I leave only Uncle Steve. At least, he tried to understand. I open the family chat in the messenger, where we usually discuss birthdays and holidays. There, they are already actively discussing me. Someone writes that I am greedy. Someone says that I have become conceited. Someone says that money has spoiled me. I write one message. "If any of you think that I should help Tom, send him the money yourselves. I gave my family a year and a half of my life and tens of thousands of dollars. That's more than all of you put together. If that's not enough, I'm sorry, but there won't be any more." I leave the chat. I block it. I go to work feeling relieved. Here, I am valued for my results, not for how much I can give. The next few days are spent in a whirlwind of negotiations and contracts. I close a deal with a pharmacy chain, a large contract to supply medical equipment. The company makes a lot of money on this, and I receive a bonus and praise from my boss, Felicia. Then I close another deal planning with a private hospital. 2 big contracts in a week. My colleagues look at me with respect, some with envy. I work so hard that I don't have time to think about my family, about Tom, about my parents, about the fact that they are probably still angry with me. On Friday evening, I leave the office late. It's cool outside, and the wind is blowing fallen leaves around. I walk to the parking lot and take out my car keys. Suddenly, I hear a familiar voice. "Julia?" I turn around. Dan is standing at the entrance to the office building. My ex, the one I was supposed to marry 3 years ago. He looks good, a little heavier but happy. Next to him is a girl, young, smiling, with long blonde hair. She's pregnant, her belly already noticeable. Dan smiles and comes closer. "Julia, hi. God, it's been 100 years. I smile too, even though something inside me is tightening. "Hey, Dan, yes, it's been a long time." He turns to the girl. "Kaylee, this is Julia. We used to date. Julia, this is Kaylee, my fiancé." Kaylee smiles sincerely and extends her hand. I shake her hand and say hello. "Nice to meet you. Congratulations to both of you." We stand awkwardly for a few seconds. Then Dan asks, "How are you? How's everything?" "Fine," I say briefly. "I'm working a lot. How about you?" "Not bad." He opened his own repair shop. It's small, but it's his own. Kaylee works at the library. They met a year ago. They're getting married in a month. I smile sincerely. "That's wonderful. Congratulations. I wish you happiness." Kaylee says she wants to look at the window display of a nearby store and walks away. Dan looks at me more closely. You really look good, Julie, but tired. Work, I reply. A lot of work. He nods sadly, then asks quietly, How's Alice? Has she recovered? I reply briefly, Yes, completely. She's walking, working. It's as if nothing happened. Dan smiles. That's good, really good. I remember how worried you were back then. I'm glad she recovered. He is silent, then adds unexpectedly, By the way, girl, did she get the insurance money for Ryan's death? I look at him in surprise. What payout? Dan is surprised. Well, life insurance. My friend Mark's wife died in an accident a year ago. He was paid $250,000. Of course, that didn't lessen the grief, but at least they didn't have to worry so much about their children financially. Insurance is mandatory if you have children and one of the parents works. Ryan worked. They had 2 children. Alice was supposed to receive a substantial payout. I am speechless. I stand and look at him, unable to utter a word. Dan looks at me with concern. Julia, are you okay? I shake my head, trying to collect myself. I didn't know. No one mentioned the payout. Dan frowns. How could they not? It's standard procedure. If Ryan was insured through work or personally, and the other driver was found at fault in the accident, Alice was definitely entitled to compensation. At least $150,000, maybe more. I feel a chill spread through my body. $250,000 2.5 years ago, when I gave them all the money from the wedding, when I transferred half my salary to them every month, when my parents sold the car and took out loans. Did Alice have money? Did she have it all along? Kaylee comes back, smiles. Dan, it's time. We have an appointment with the doctor at 8. Dan nods, looks at me. Julia, I'm sorry, we have to go. But figure out this payment issue. Seriously, it's important. I nod mechanically. Yes, I'll figure it out, thank you. They leave. I stand by the car, unable to move. One thought keeps spinning around and around in my head. Alice got the money. And she kept quiet. She kept quiet the whole time. And I gave everything. I don't sleep all night. I lie in bed, stare at the ceiling, and the same thought keeps spinning in my head. Alice got the money, $250,000, maybe more, and she kept quiet. At 3 a.m, I give up, sit down at my laptop, and start Googling. Insurance payments for death in a car accident. Compensation for the family of the deceased. Mandatory life insurance. I read articles, forums, legal websites. Everywhere it's the same. If a person worked officially and had insurance through work or personal, the family receives a payment, especially if there are minor children. The amount varies, but the minimum is $150,000. Ryan worked as a manager in a construction company. Of course, he had insurance. At 5 a.m, I can't take it anymore. I call Mark Ringer, a lawyer I've worked with several times on contracts. He's divorced, cynical, but professional, and he always answers the phone, even at night. Julia? His voice is sleepy, but not irritated. 5 a.m. Did someone die? Mark, I need advice, urgently. He sighs. I hear him rustling, probably sitting up in bed. I'm listening. I briefly describe the situation. Sister, accident, husband's death, children, insurance. Mark is silent for a few seconds, then says, if Ryan was insured through work or personally, and the other driver was found at fault in the accident, and in the case of a truck that didn't make the turn, that's how it should be. Alice definitely received compensation. A minimum of $150,000, a maximum of $300,000. It depends on the terms of the insurance and Ryan's salary. I grip the phone tighter. How can I find out officially? Mark sighs. Officially, there's no way. It's confidential information. Only if Alice herself says so or shows the documents. But there's another option. Hire a private investigator. A good investigator can find out through bank records if they know where to look. Can you recommend someone? Kate Wallace, a former cop, now a private investigator. I'll give you her number. But Julia? What? Be prepared for what you find out. Sometimes the truth is worse than ignorance. I nod, even though he can't see me. Thanks, Mark. He sends me Kate's contact information, and I immediately write to her on Messenger. I briefly explain the situation. She replies at 9 in the morning, "Let's meet. Today at 2. The coffee shop on Maple Street." I arrive early, order coffee, and sit at a table by the window. Kate shows up right at 2, a short woman with a short haircut, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. Her face is tired, but her eyes are alert. She sits down across from me and orders an espresso. "Julia?" "Yes." "Mark gave me the general idea. Tell me more." I tell her everything: the accident, Alice, rehab, the money I gave away, the break with my family, the Porsche, the conversation with Dan. Kate listens attentively, writing something down in her notebook. "Your sister's name, full name. Alice Marie Tanner, formerly Alice Clarkson, before she got married. Her husband's name? Oh, Ryan Clarkson. Date of the accident?" I tell her. Kate writes it down. The company he worked for? Steelbridge Construction. Kate nods, closes her notebook. I can't promise quick results. It could take a week, maybe 2, but if the money was there, I'll find it. My fee is $2,000 up front. Another 2 after results. I nod. Okay. I transfer the money to her right away via phone. Kate checks it, then gets up. I'll get in touch as soon as I find out anything. She leaves, and I remain sitting with my cold coffee. I feel everything inside me tightening with tension. The week passes slowly. I work, trying not to think about it, but the thought of Alice won't leave me. I wake up at night imagining how she received a check for $200,000 and simply put it in the bank. How she kept quiet when her parents sold the car. How she took my money every month knowing she had a fortune. A week later, Kate calls. "Julia, I found it." My heart is pounding so hard that it's hard to breathe. What exactly? Alice received an insurance payment from Steelbridge Construction in the amount of $240,000. The money was deposited into her account 6 months after the accident, in December. I close my eyes. "Is there anything else?" I ask, my voice trembling. Yes. A year after the payment, she bought a property in her name, a townhouse in the suburbs, in the Oakwood area. She paid $190,000 in cash. She now rents it out for $3,000 a month. The tenants are a young couple with a 2-year lease. Or I am silent. I cannot utter a word. Kate continues. Alice now has about $30,000 in her account. The rest probably went to rehabilitation, living expenses. Maybe she bought something else. But the townhouse is a solid asset, plus $3,000 in passive income every month. I open my eyes and look out the window. The sun is shining. People are walking down the street, smiling. And inside, everything is falling apart. Thanks, Kate. Send me the documents. I already emailed them. And Julia, yes, I know it hurts. Hang in there. She hangs up. I sit in the car for another half hour, just staring into space. Then I start the engine and drive to my parents' house. Alice lives there with the kids. After the accident, my parents offered her a place to stay so she could help with the children. She agreed. Temporarily, she said. But she's been living there for 3 years now. I park near the house and walk to the door. I ring the bell. Alice opens the door. She's wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt, her hair tied back in a ponytail. She looks healthy and strong, no signs of disability. Julia, she says, surprised, what are you doing here? I walk in without waiting for an invitation. She steps back. Hey, you could ask first. Where's the insurance money? I say bluntly, looking her in the eye. Alice turns pale. Her lips tighten. What money? $240,000 for Ryan's death. I hired a detective. I know everything. She is silent. She looks at me, and there is panic in her eyes, then anger. It's my money, she says coldly. Mine. I lost my husband. And you didn't tell your parents, I say quietly. They sold the car, they took out loans, they lived on a shoestring, and you kept quiet. Alice raises her voice. They didn't ask. I don't have to report my finances to anyone. But you took the money, I say, my voice trembling with anger. From me, from my parents, from everyone, every month, for rehabilitation. You said you didn't have enough, that the treatment was expensive. Alice snaps, Our rehabilitation was expensive. I spent over $50,000. Massages, physical therapists, special equipment. And the rest, I interrupt, you invested in a townhouse for $190,000, which you now rent out for $3,000 a month. And you're silent. Alice crosses her arms over her chest and raises her chin. They're my children. I'm securing their future. It's none of your business. I take a step closer. What about Tom? I ask quietly. He's your brother. He's $59,000 in debt. His wife is pregnant. Now you could help. You have the money. Alice is cold. Tom is an idiot. He lost other people's money in cryptocurrency. I'm not going to spend my money on his stupidity. But my money? I say, my voice breaking, you spent with pleasure. Wow, Alice looks at me, and I see hatred in her eyes. Pure, undisguised hatred. You wanted to help, she says slowly. No one forced you. You brought the money yourself. You offered it yourself. I didn't ask. I feel like I'm suffocating with anger and pain. I gave up my wedding. I broke up with Dan. I lived on macaroni and canned food for a year, buying nothing but food and transportation. And you, my voice cracks. You just took and kept quiet. Alice moves closer, her face inches from mine. And what are you going to do? She asks quietly with a smile. Tell your parents? Do you think they'll believe you? They think you're a cold bitch who abandoned her family for money. I hold her gaze. I'll show them the documents. Alice laughs. Briefly, maliciously. Show them. They'll choose me anyway because I'm the one who lost her husband, almost lost her legs, and is raising 2 children on her own. And you're the one who drives a $135,000 Porsche and refused to help your own brother. I turn around and walk to the exit. We'll see, I say without turning around. I slam the door. I get in the car, my hands shaking so badly that I can barely start the engine. I drive straight to my parents' house. They live 2 streets away. Roger opens the door, surprised. Julia, you again? I go in without answering. I go to the living room where my mother is sitting on the sofa watching TV. Julia? She stands up. What's wrong? I put the printouts on the table. Alice's bank statement, the townhouse documents, a copy of the insurance payout. Read it, I say curtly. But my parents approach the table. Roger takes the papers and begins to read. Vivian looks over his shoulder. Silence. A long, heavy silence. Vivian finally shakes her head and steps back. This can't be true. Roger is silent, rereading the documents. His face turns to stone. I say, quietly but clearly, Alice received $240,000 2.5 years ago. 6 months after the accident, she bought a townhouse for $190,000. Now she rents it out for $3,000 a month. And you sold your car and took out loans to pay for her rehabilitation. Vivian cries, covering her face with her hands. Why didn't she tell us? We're her parents. I look at her coldly. Because she's greedy. She wanted to keep the money for herself, to provide for her children, and you believed her. You took out loans and blamed me when I couldn't give any more. Roger sits down heavily on a chair and puts the papers on the table. He is silent for a long time. His face is gray. Then he says, quietly, I'll call her. I'll take the papers from the table. Call her, but I'm not giving anyone anything anymore. Tom has to pay for himself. And if he needs money, let him ask Alice. She has more than enough to help. I leave the house. My parents don't stop me. I get in the car and drive home, and only at home, when I close the door and am alone, do I finally give in to my emotions. I scream, I punch the sofa, I cry so hard I can't breathe because they all, my parents, Alice, Tom, used me, my whole past, and I let them. The next day, Dad calls Alice. I can't hear the conversation, but Mom tells me later when she calls herself. He yelled at her, she says quietly, her voice trembling. I've never heard him yell like that before. At first, Alice denied it, said you made it all up, that the documents were fake. But then she confessed. I'm silent, listening. She said she had to provide for the children, that they had no father, and it was her responsibility. Your dad yelled, "What about us? We're your parents. We're in debt. We sold the car." And Alice replied, Mom's voice breaks. She said, "You would have spent the money on something unnecessary. I did the right thing." I close my eyes. Even now, when she's been exposed, Alice doesn't feel guilty. Dad hung up, my mother continues. He hasn't spoken to her since that day. He doesn't answer the phone when she calls. I don't know what to say. Part of me feels satisfaction. Let them feel the pain too. But another part is just tired. "Julie," Mom cries, "I didn't know, honestly. If I had known—" I interrupt. "But you didn't believe me when I said I was tired. When I asked for a week off, you cut off contact with me." Mom is silent. Then quietly, "We were wrong. I'm sorry." I hang up without answering. They don't call for 3 days. Then my mother writes in a messenger app, "Julie, please come. We need to talk." I don't want to go, but I have to end all this. For good. I arrive in the evening. My parents are sitting at the table looking older. Mom is crying, her eyes red. Dad is gray, silent. "Julie." Mom stands up, trying to hug me. I step back. "Don't." She freezes, drops her arms. We sit down at the table. The silence is heavy, weighing on our shoulders. Finally, Mom says, "We didn't know. Honestly, if we had known about Alice's money—" I interrupt, my voice cold. "But you believed her, not me. When I said I was tired, you called me selfish. When I asked for a break, you cut off contact. You didn't call for 2.5 years until you saw the Porsche." Dad says, with difficulty, "We were wrong. I'm sorry, Julia." I look at them both. I want to scream. I want to accuse them. I want them to feel at least a fraction of the pain I felt. But instead, I just feel tired and angry. Cold, hard anger. "I don't know if I can forgive you," I say quietly. For 2.5 years, I thought I was a bad daughter and a selfish bitch who abandoned her family. But in reality, I was just a naive, stupid rag that you wiped yourselves with and threw away when you got everything you wanted out of me. Mom cries louder. "You're not stupid, you're kind, too kind." I laugh bitterly, maliciously. I was. Not anymore. And you know what? The past should remain dead and buried so it doesn't affect me now or in the future. That's why I'm not giving anyone any money. Let Tom shake down his other greedy, selfish bitch of a sister. She has something to share. Dad nods heavily. I understand. Mom wipes her eyes and says timidly, "What about Tom?" He got 2 jobs. During the day, he's a salesman in a store, and in the evening, he's a loader in a warehouse. He started paying off his debts, but slowly. The banks are pressuring him. I say coldly, "That's his problem. He's an adult." Dad nods again. "Yes, you're right." Mom hesitates, then asks quietly, "What about Sheila?" She's due to give birth in 2 weeks. They live in that awful apartment on the 2nd floor without an elevator, with mold on the walls. Tom works all day. She's alone. I remain silent. I think about Sheila. It's not her fault. She just fell in love with an idiot. "I'll call her," I finally say. Mom's eyes sparkle with hope, but I raise my hand. But not for Tom, for her, and for the baby. I get up and walk to the door. At the threshold, I turn around. And one more thing. Don't call me asking for money. Ever again. If you just want to talk, fine. But not about money. I'll just tell you and anyone else to get lost, especially you. They both nod. I leave. Yeah. The next day, I call Sheila. She doesn't answer right away. Her voice sounds tired. Julia, hi, Sheila, can we meet? She is silent, then says, Tom said you refused to help, that you... I want to talk to you. Without Tom. Can you? Pause. Okay. When? We meet at a coffee shop near her house. Sheila arrives slowly, holding her stomach. She looks exhausted. Her face is pale. There are dark circles under her eyes. Her hair is tied back in a messy bun. She sits down heavily and sighs. Thank you for coming. I nod, order her tea and something from the pastries. She thanks me quietly. We sit in silence for a few minutes. Then I ask directly, did you know about the cryptocurrency? Sheila shakes her head. I found out when everything had already fallen apart. Tom came home pale and said he had lost everything. At first, I didn't understand. Oh, what money? Where did he get it? He confessed that he had taken his parents' savings and taken out loans. I wanted to leave then. I packed my things, but... She puts her hand on her stomach. Where to? I can't go to my parents. They're barely making ends meet themselves. Rent an apartment. With what? Tom says it was an opportunity to earn money, to provide for us, but he just... Her voice cracks. She cries quietly. I remain silent, giving her time to calm down. Then I take the envelope out of my bag and put it on the table. There's $28,000 here. Sheila raises her head sharply, her eyes wide open. What? For the birth. The first few months, baby things. So you can breathe easy, at least a little. There won't be any more. Sheila looks at the envelope, then at me. Julia, I can't accept this. You can, I interrupt. But listen carefully. This isn't for Tom, it's for you and the baby. It's not her fault her father's an imbecile. But this is the last help I'm giving you. Don't ever ask again. I've given too much to others, so consider this the death throes of the old me that's still breathing somewhere inside, so don't ask questions. Just take it. Sheila takes the envelope with trembling hands and presses it to her chest. Thank you. Thank you, Julia. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, I say. But remember one thing. If Tom doesn't change, if he messes up again, leave. Don't stay for the child's sake. Children sense unhappy mothers. Sheila nods, tears rolling down her cheeks. I promise. I get up and put the money for the tea on the table. Take care of yourself. I leave the cafe and get into my car. I feel relieved. I did what I could. Now my conscience is clear. I return to work the next day with renewed energy. Felicia gives me a big project, supplying equipment to a network of private hospitals. It's a $1 million contract. I immerse myself in negotiations, attend meetings, and draft proposals. For 2 months, I work like a woman possessed. I close the contract successfully. The company makes $1 million. I get a $30,000 bonus and a promotion. My colleagues congratulate me. Felicia personally thanks me at the general meeting. I smile, nod, accept the praise. But inside, I feel empty, as if none of it matters. One day, Felicia calls me into her office. She sits at her desk and looks at me intently. Julia, have a seat. I sit down. She is silent, then says, You are the best manager I've had in my 20 years on the job. You close deals that others can't. Clients love you. Suppliers respect you. Your colleagues adore you. I wait for her to continue, but you look burned out, she says bluntly. Tired. Like you're working on autopilot. Take a vacation. I shake my head. I don't want to. Work is the only thing I have. Felicia looks at me for a long time, then says softly, That's not true. You have a future, but you won't see it if you don't stop for a moment. I remain silent. She sighs. I'll give you 3 days off with pay, mandatory, if you don't agree. Go somewhere, or just stay at home. But turn off your work phone. Rest. I don't argue. I nod. Okay. I go home that same day. I feel strange. As if I've been pushed out of my usual rhythm. What to do with my free time? I can't remember the last time I had a day off. At home, I open the mailbox. There are a bunch of advertisements and bills, and one beautiful envelope, elegant design, pastel colors. I open it. A wedding invitation. Dan and Kaylee. Inside is a short handwritten note. Julie, we would love for you to come. I know it's been over between us for a long time, but you were an important part of my life. I'll be happy to see you happy too. Sincerely, Dan. I stare at the invitation for a long time. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Saturday, 2 p.m. A restaurant on the lake. I don't know if I want to go. To see Dan happy with someone else. To see the life that could have been mine. But something tells me I have to. It's closing the last page of the past. I have to end it for good in order to move on. I put the invitation on the table and look at it. I'm going to the wedding. Definitely. Dan and Kaylee's wedding is in a small restaurant on the lake shore. I arrive early and park away from the entrance. I sit in the car for a few minutes looking at the water. It's calm, mirror-like, reflecting the sky and the trees on the opposite shore. I'm wearing a simple black knee-length dress. No jewelry, no showiness. My hair is down, minimal makeup. I don't want to attract attention. I don't want anyone asking about me, about my life, about why I'm still single. I get out of the car and walk to the restaurant. There are about 50 guests. A small wedding. The atmosphere is warm and relaxed. People are laughing, hugging, taking photos in front of the decorations made of fresh flowers. Dan sees me at the entrance. His face breaks into a smile. He looks happy. His suit fits perfectly. His eyes are shining. He walks over quickly and gives me a big hug. Julia, thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I smile, hug him briefly, and smell his cologne, the same one he wore 3 years ago. I couldn't miss it. Congratulations. Kaylee approaches too, in a wedding dress, simple and beautiful, cream-colored, her belly already visible under the fabric. She smiles sincerely without pretense, takes my hand. Julia, I'm so glad you're here. Dan has told me so much about you. Thank you for coming. I squeeze her hand. Only good things, I hope. She laughs easily. Of course. He said you're one of the strongest people he knows. I look at Dan in surprise. He smiles a little awkwardly, as if embarrassed that Kaylee said it out loud. Dan looks at Kaylee, and I see something in his eyes that I never saw when we were together. Love. Real, deep love. Not duty, not habit, not an attempt to do the right thing. Just love. And I realize he's happy. Truly happy. In a way he never was with me. Something inside me hurts, but not in the way I expected. Not sharply, not intensely, just quietly like an old bruise that reminds you of itself when you touch it, but no longer screams in pain. The ceremony is short and sincere. They stand under an arch of white roses and exchange vows. Dan's voice trembles when he says, I promise to love you even when it's hard. Kaylee cries and smiles. They kiss to the applause of the guests, and everyone stands up to congratulate them. I sit in the back row watching. I clap my hands along with the others. I feel a strange calm. Not sadness, not regret. Just a realization this could have been my life, my happiness, my celebration, but it didn't happen. And that's, okay, it's bitter. It hurts somewhere deep inside. But surprisingly, it's not sad. It's not destructive, just a fact. The banquet takes place on a terrace overlooking the lake. The tables are simply decorated. White tablecloths, fresh flowers in low vases, candles in glass lanterns. The sun sets on the horizon. The sky turns pink. The water reflects the colors. I sit at the table with the other guests, Keely's friends, as it turns out. They are friendly, talking about work, children, plans for the summer. I listen more than I talk, nodding, smiling occasionally. One woman, Teresa, asks me, How do you know the young couple? I know Dan. We used to date a long time ago. She nods understandingly and doesn't ask any more questions. I am grateful for that. After the official part, when the young couple go around the tables and thank the guests, I approach them with a gift. I take a small wooden box out of my bag, polished walnut, smooth to the touch. "This is for you," I say, handing the box to Dan. He opens it slowly. Inside is an antique compass in a bronze frame, the needle trembling slightly as it searches for north. On the inside of the lid is an engraving in old-fashioned font. "May you always find your way to each other." Dan looks at the compass for a long time, then at me. His eyes moisten, and he blinks rapidly. "Julia, I don't know what to say, thank you." Kaylee looks at the compass too, then at me, surprised, but not fully understanding the depth of the symbolism. Dan quietly explains it to her, holding the compass in his hands, showing her the engraving. She nods and smiles warmly at me. I say, looking at both of them, "I wish you true happiness, the kind you and I couldn't find, Dan. You deserve it." Dan nods, comes closer, squeezes my hand with both of his. "Thank you for everything, for coming, for the gift, for understanding, and the same to you, Julia. Sincerely, you deserve happiness more than anyone I've ever known, and I will pray for your happiness." I smile, let go of his hand, and step back so as not to keep them too long. I go to the bar and order water with ice. The bartender, a young woman with bright lipstick, pours it and smiles. "Don't like alcohol at weddings?" "Not today," I reply, taking the glass. Someone nearby says in a soft voice, "You don't like wedding champagne either." I turn around. Standing next to me is a man, about 35, maybe a little older. He is wearing a simple gray suit, no tie, the top buttons of his shirt unbuttoned. His face is pleasant, not handsome in the classical sense, but with kind eyes. His smile is light and natural. I smile back. It's too sweet. It gives me a headache. He nods, orders himself a whiskey, then turns back to me. "Len Harrison, by the way, Dan's friend from college. Julia Tanner." We shake hands. His handshake is firm but not demonstrative. He doesn't ask who I am or make awkward questions about how I know Dan. He just talks easily and naturally about the weather, the beauty of the lake, and how nervous Dan was before the ceremony. He says he has known Dan since their student days, that they studied business administration together, then went their separate ways, but remained friends. Len started a small company supplying medical equipment to private clinics 5 years ago. I perk up when I hear about medical equipment. I'm in that field too. I work at Med Supply, dealing with corporate procurement. Len smiles more broadly. "I heard about this deal with the hospital chain a month ago. It's a solid contract. Is that your job?" I nod. "Yes." He laughs. "Then we're competitors. But today, it's a truce. You don't talk about business at a wedding. We chat a little more. About the market, about supply difficulties, about how hard it is to find reliable partners. The conversation is easy, without tension, without flirting. Just two professionals exchanging thoughts and experiences. He talks about his company, how difficult it was in the beginning, how he almost went bankrupt in the first year, but then found his niche, small private clinics that need high-quality equipment, but cannot afford large suppliers. I listen carefully, nod, ask questions. He is smart, that's obvious, and honest. He doesn't hide the difficulties, doesn't embellish his achievements. After a while, he takes a business card from the inside pocket of his jacket and hands it to me. If you ever need advice or cooperation, give me a call, or even just for coffee, if you want to talk about the market." It's always interesting to exchange experiences with a professional. I take the business card and look at it. Simple white, just a name, phone number, and company name. No frills. "Maybe," I say with a smile. He nods and smiles back, not insistently. "I'll be waiting." "It was nice to meet you, Julia." "Likewise, Lena." We part ways. I return to the table, sit for a while longer, watching the dancing, watching Dan twirl Kaylee to the slow music, watching her laugh, leaning against his shoulder. Then I quietly say goodbye to them, congratulate them again, and go to my car. I drive home, and on the way I feel something unusual, Not love, not even interest, just the possibility. The possibility that someday, maybe, I'll be able to let someone in again, that it's not all over. The next week, I return to work with renewed energy. Felicia gives me a new project, negotiations with a large chain of pharmacies, a 3-year contract to supply diagnostic equipment. Big money, big responsibility. I dive into work head first, traveling to meetings in different cities, drafting proposals, analyzing competitors, negotiating terms. This is my element. I'm good at it. Maybe too good because sometimes I feel like work is all I have. One evening, I'm sitting in the office at 9 o'clock. Everyone has already gone home except for the security guard downstairs and the cleaning lady on the other floor. I look out the window at the city. It glows with lights. Thousands of windows, thousands of lives, thousands of stories. I think about my parents. They called the other day briefly asking how I was doing, if I was cold in my new apartment in winter, if I was eating properly. The conversation was awkward, tense, with many pauses, but they tried. I also tried not to answer in monosyllables. It's not reconciliation, but it's no longer war. It's a truce, a slow, cautious truce. As I think about Tom, Sheila gave birth to a daughter 3 months ago and named her Emma. She sent a photo, a tiny baby with dark fuzz on her head, tiny fists, eyes closed. I looked at the photo for a long time and smiled unexpectedly. I didn't reply to Sheila, but I saved the photo in a separate folder on my phone. I think about Alice. Her parents say she's offended at everyone for exposing her. She doesn't talk to them or to me, and she rarely even answers her phone. She lives her own life, raises her children, rents out her townhouse, earns money. I don't feel guilty for telling the truth. Maybe someday I will, but not now. The phone rings unexpectedly, pulling me out of my thoughts. Unknown number. I pick up the phone. Julia Tanner, speaking. Julia, hi, this is Len Harrison. We met at Dan's wedding 2 weeks ago. I smile unexpectedly and lean back in my chair. Hi, Len, I remember. How are you? Not bad, thanks. Listen, I have a proposal. One of my clinics is looking for a supplier for a long-term contract. Diagnostic equipment, consumables. I thought of you. Maybe we could meet and discuss the details? Or if now is not convenient. I think for a second. Then, yes, let's meet. When is convenient for you? We meet 2 days later at a coffee shop in the city center. Len arrives right on time, wearing jeans and a sweater, looking less formal than at the wedding, but still neat. We discuss the contract, terms, deadlines, and volumes. Len is professional, asks the right questions, listens carefully, and writes down the main points. I give him a preliminary offer and promise to send the details by email. After the discussion, he asks, "Would you like some more coffee, or do you have to rush to a meeting?" I look at my watch. It's still early. My next meeting isn't until 4. I can stay a little longer. We order more coffee and talk about things other than work. He tells me more about his company, how he started it 5 years ago after his divorce, how it was his way of starting over. I listen, sometimes nodding, sometimes asking questions. He doesn't ask about my personal life or pry. He just talks easily, sharing his experiences. Over the next 2 months, we meet several more times. First for work, discussing the contract and agreeing on the terms. Then he invites me to dinner after signing the agreement, and I agree. We go to a small restaurant and talk about everything except work. Books, travel, places we'd like to visit. We don't meet officially, we don't kiss goodbye, we don't talk about feelings. We just spend time together sometimes. I like it. There's no pressure, no expectations. I still work 12 hours almost every day. I'm still angry at the world sometimes. I still don't trust people easily. But something has changed. I no longer feel empty inside. I feel more whole. Broken in some places, but more whole than before. It's as if I've finally started to put myself back together, piece by piece. My parents call once every 2 weeks, sometimes more often. Briefly about the weather, about health, about little things. I answer, not warmly, but not coldly either, just neutrally, calmly. Once, after a long pause, my dad says, "Julia, you were right. About everything. About Alice, about how we treated you. I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner, that we didn't protect you." I'm silent for a long time, looking out the window, then quietly, "I know, Dad." He is silent too, then. "You're a good daughter. You always have been. We just didn't understand." "I know," I say, "but nothing can be changed now." "I know," he says, "but I still wanted to say it." That's all. We say goodbye. I hang up and feel something like relief. Sheila sends photos of Emma once a month, sometimes more often. The baby is growing, already smiling in the pictures, reaching out to the camera. I look at the photos, sometimes replying briefly, "She's pretty. She looks like you." Sheila writes every time, "Thank you for everything. We're doing okay. Tom has changed. He's working. He's trying." I believe her. I want to believe her. One evening, Len and I are driving through the city in my car after dinner. The Porsche hums quietly, smoothly. The streets are almost empty. The traffic lights flash yellow. Len asks unexpectedly, "Julia, why do you work so much?" "I'm not judging. I'm just curious." "You're always in the office late, always on the phone." I think about it, driving the car, looking at the road. Then I answer honestly, because it's the only thing I'm sure of, the only thing I control. Everything else can always disappear. People leave, relationships fall apart, family disappoints. But work, it depends only on me. He nods slowly, looks out the window. I understand. But someday you have to let go of control, Julia. Allow yourself to live, not just work. I smile a little bitterly. Someday, but not now. Definitely not now. He looks at me intently, then says quietly, "You know, I've rarely met people who have been through so much and haven't broken down. You're strong, Julia, even if you don't see it yourself." I laugh briefly. "Who said I didn't break? Maybe I'm just good at hiding it." Len looks at me seriously, not looking away. "You're here. You're working. You're living. You met with me today, even though you could have said you were busy. That's not a broken person, Julia. That's a person who is learning to live again." I am silent. I think about his words. Maybe he's right. Maybe I'm not completely broken, just different, tougher, colder, more cautious but alive, still alive. A year later, I'm still working at Med Supply. I got another promotion. Now I'm the director of corporate procurement. I have my own team, my own budget, my own projects. My parents call me rarely but regularly. We haven't become close again, but we're not strangers either, just relatives who communicate from a distance, cautiously, without offense. Tom has paid off almost all his debts and now works only one job. He found a position as a manager in a small company. Sheila went back to work after maternity leave and put Emma in daycare. The little one is growing up. She'll be 2 soon. They send photos on holidays. I look at them, sometimes reply. Alice helped Tom financially under pressure from her parents, but she hardly communicates with her family. The resentment is mutual. My mother says that Alice regrets it but doesn't know how to ask for forgiveness. I don't feel the need to reconnect. Maybe someday, but not now. I've been officially dating Len for 6 months, but we have no plans for a wedding or children. It's more comfortable for both of us this way. We work, travel sometimes on weekends, live our lives. No drama, no big promises, no pressure. Just together when we want to be together. One morning, I look at myself in the mirror before work. I see a woman in her 30s with tired but calm eyes. A woman with a determined look, straight shoulders. A woman who has lost a lot. A wedding, love, faith in family, part of herself. But she didn't give up. She didn't fall. She didn't break completely. A woman who still has a long way to go to truly forgive herself, her family, the past. who is still sometimes angry at the whole world, who still doesn't trust easily, who still works too much to keep her mind off things, but she's moving forward, slowly, cautiously, stumbling sometimes, but she's moving forward, and that's something. The phone rings. Work. Felicia wants to discuss a new contract. I smile at my reflection, pick up the phone, and leave the apartment. I'm listening, Felicia. Yes, I'm on my way. Life goes on. My life. Not perfect. Not what I planned 3 years ago, but mine.